Have you ever felt like something invisible is working against you? Like no matter how hard you try, you're drained, discouraged, and distant from God? You're not just imagining it. Spiritual attacks are real, and they often come disguised as ordinary struggles until they escalate into something far more dangerous. The enemy doesn't always show up with flashing red lights. Sometimes he creeps in through exhaustion, confusion, fear, or even sudden temptations that you thought you had overcome. If left unchecked, these attacks can shake your faith, steal your peace, and push you into isolation. But here's the good news. Awareness is your first defense. The moment you recognize the signs, you can fight back. And in this article, we'll uncover the 7 biggest warning signs that you're under spiritual attack. If any of these sound familiar, don't brush them off. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. Signs. You're under spiritual attack. Don't ignore these. Life can sometimes feel like an uphill battle full of unexpected challenges, doubts, and overwhelming pressures. But what if I told you that some of these struggles might not just be ordinary trials? What if, beneath the surface, an unseen force was working to shake your faith, break your spirit, and lead you away from your purpose? Spiritual attacks are real, and they often manifest in subtle ways before escalating into full-blown crises. The key to overcoming them is recognizing the signs early. So let's uncover the 7 major signs that indicate you may be under spiritual attack. Beware. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. Unusual and sudden fatigue. You wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep. Your body feels heavy, your mind sluggish, and no amount of coffee seems to help. It's not just physical exhaustion. It's something deeper. Spiritual fatigue is a classic sign of an attack. The enemy wants you weak, drained, and unable to engage in prayer, worship, or spiritual warfare. Have you ever noticed that when you sit down to read the Bible or pray, you suddenly feel exhausted? That's not a coincidence. But why is this happening to you now? What is it about this season of your life that has the enemy so interested in keeping you down? Constant and intense confusion. Everything was going well and suddenly nothing makes sense. You question your decisions, your faith, and even your identity. Doubts creep in, and where there was once clarity, there's now a fog. Confusion is a favorite tool of spiritual forces that seek to derail you. If you find yourself second-guessing everything and feeling disconnected from the truth you once held dear, take a step back. Who benefits from keeping you lost? Could it be that your breakthrough is just around the corner, and this confusion is an attempt to stop you from reaching it? A deep, unshakable sense of fear. You feel afraid, but you don't know why. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and worst of all, peace feels impossible to grasp. Fear is a powerful weapon. It can paralyze you, keeping you from stepping into the fullness of your calling. Spiritual attacks often come with a creeping sense of dread, making you anticipate bad news or expect failure, even when there's no logical reason to do so. But what if the fear isn't based on reality, but is instead a carefully crafted illusion to keep you from walking in faith? 4. Increased temptation and old struggles. Resurfacing just when you thought you'd overcome a bad habit or a toxic relationship. It comes knocking again, stronger than before. Spiritual attacks often involve the enemy reviving past sins and temptations, trying to lure you back into old cycles. You suddenly crave things you had no interest in before. You feel drawn to people or situations you know are destructive. It's like a battle is raging inside you, pulling you toward a path you already left behind. Why now? Why is this old struggle showing up again at this precise moment in your life? 5. Unexplained opposition and frustration in your life. You're working hard, staying faithful, but for some reason, doors that should be opening are slamming shut. Opportunities vanish. Relationships become strained. Everything that could go wrong seems to go wrong, all at once. While life naturally has ups and downs, a pattern of persistent, unusual opposition may indicate a spiritual battle. Sometimes, the enemy throws obstacles in your path just to discourage you from pressing forward. What if the resistance you're facing is proof that you're on the right track and the enemy is terrified of where you're headed? An overwhelming desire to isolate yourself. You don't feel like talking to anyone. Even the people you love start to feel distant. Maybe you stop going to church, cancel plans, and avoid accountability. One of the most dangerous signs of a spiritual attack is isolation. When you're alone, you're vulnerable. The enemy wants you disconnected, struggling in silence, convinced that no one understands or cares. But ask yourself, when have you ever won a battle by standing alone? Loss of passion for spiritual things. You used to love worshiping, praying, and reading the Word, but now, it all feels like a chore. The hunger you once had for God's presence has faded, replaced by indifference. This isn't just a dry season. It's an attack on your spiritual life. When the enemy can dull your passion, he knows it's only a matter of time before you drift away from your faith. He doesn't need to destroy you overnight. All he needs to do is make you lukewarm. But here's the good news. Awareness is the first step to victory. How to fight back. Recognizing these signs is just the beginning. Here's how you can resist and overcome spiritual attacks. Pray and fast. Intensify your prayers. Fasting breaks spiritual strongholds and renews your strength. Speak the word. Scripture is your weapon. Use it to counter lies and confusion. Stay in community. Don't isolate yourself. Surround yourself with strong believers who can encourage and pray for you. Worship through the storm. Worship shifts the atmosphere and confuses the enemy. Put on the full armor of God. Read Ephesians 6:10-18 and equip yourself for spiritual warfare. You are not powerless. No matter what attack you're facing, you have the authority to stand firm and fight back. The battle is already won. You just need to walk in that victory. So, what will you do next time you recognize these signs? Will you ignore them, or will you rise up and fight? The choice is yours.